In this quick review, we're going to talk about factoring a trinomial. First of all, how do I know that I have a trinomial problem to factor? Well, two things. I have three terms, 1, 2, 3. That makes this a trinomial. And there is a 1 in front of x squared. Most of the time we don't write that 1, but we understand it to be there. What do I look for when I go to factor a trinomial? Well, there are two things that are important. The first is the product. The product is always the last number that is a constant. It has no x value. So in this problem, the product is 24. And then we look for the sum. The sum is the middle term, the one that goes with the x, and in this case, it's 10. I use the product to think of factors that will add up or subtract to equal the sum. So for example, with 24, 1 times 24 would give me 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. If I need to, I can use my calculator to take 24 and divide it by different numbers to come up with all the pairs that are possible. The pair that I want is going to also add up to 10. 1 plus 24 is 25. 2 and 12 is 14. 3 and 8 is 11, but 4 plus 6 is 10. That's how I know I found the right pair. So I look at my problem. I know I get my first term from x times x. That gives me my x squared. Now I need the 4 and the 6 in place. All of these were positive, so both of these will be positive. And now I have my two factors that will give me x squared plus 10x plus 24. I should always check my work to make sure I haven't missed a sign change or to make sure I haven't accidentally used the wrong pair. And the way I do that is with our box method of multiplication. So if x plus 4 is one factor, I have x and I have 4 on top, x plus 6, x and 6 down the side, and then I multiply x times x, x squared. 4 times x, 4x. 6 times x, 6x. And 6 times 4, 24. Remember, with the box method, we are always going to have a diagonal that gives us the middle term. These are the two numbers that sum up to give us the middle term. So I have x squared plus 6 plus 4 would be 10x's plus 24. I have the same thing that I started with, so I'm confident that that's the right answer. Let's look at this next example. We're going to look at these case by case. In example number 1 here, we have two positives. These are the easiest ones to do when everything is positive. We don't really have to worry about signs. So step number 1 is to think about my product. Product, last number. Sum is what's in the middle that goes with the x. So I'm thinking of factors of 24 that will also give me 11. Now we just did all the factors of 24. We did 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. We know it can't be 4 times 6 because 4 times 6 gave us 10. And this time it's 11. So I'm looking at this middle pair here, 3 and 8. 3 plus 8 would give me 11. X squared comes from x times x. And then the 24 comes from 3 times 8. And then because these are both positive, these are both positive. So these are my two factors. Once again, I'm going to quickly check x plus 3, x plus 8, x times x, x squared. 3 times x, 8 times x, and 8 times 3. Look on my diagonal. 8 plus 3 is going to give me 11x. Plus I have the x squared, plus I have the 24. And I have what I started with. I'm confident that I'm right. Notice that this problem is exactly the same as this one, except I have a minus and then a positive. The only way I can get a positive product of 24 but a negative sum, my sum here is going to be negative 11, is if I have two negative numbers that multiply together. So we know that 11 is going to come from 8 and 3, because we just used that. So 8 times 3 would give me 24. But 8 plus 3 gives me a positive 11. So when this negative is first and the second one is positive, that's when I know both of my factors need to be negative. Because negative 8 minus 3 would give me a negative 11. That's what I want. So this changes my factors a little bit. I still have x times x. And this time, instead of having plus 8 and plus 3, I have minus 8 and minus 3. Let's look at what that looks like when we go to check it. X minus 8 and x minus 3. X times x gave me my x squared. But now I have negative 8 times x and negative 3 times x. And then negative times negative is positive 24. So I'm still going to get my positive number, but the diagonal, negative 8 minus 3, gives me negative 11x plus my 24. So I have the right factors to give me what I started with. The sign is very important. With two positives, we don't worry about it, but with a negative and then a positive, both will be negative. I'm using exactly the same 24 on the end, but notice the middle term has changed. In example number 3, I have a negative and then a negative. In example number 4, I have a positive and a negative. Both of these are going to be worked the same way. One term is going to be positive, one term is going to be negative, and we have to figure out which one is going to be which. Once again, product, negative 24. Sum, negative 5. So, to get a negative 24, I have to have a positive and a negative number, because a positive times a negative is going to give me a negative. If I do 1 and 24, that will not give me 5. If I do 2 and 12, that will not give me 5. If I do 3 and 8, can you see that a 3 and an 8 could be combined to get a negative 5? So, in the past example, we did 3 plus 8. That gave us 11. But we know now that we need one of these to be negative. So if we do negative 3 plus 8, negative 3 plus 8 would be a positive 5. Do I need a positive 5? No, I need a negative 5. So let's change it. 3 minus 8 will give me a negative 5. That's what I want. So that means my two factors are going to be x plus 3 minus 8. This time to check, instead of doing the box, let's use the arrows. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. 3 times x is positive 3x. And positive times negative gives me a negative 24. Here's my x squared. Here's where it would be in the diagonal of my boxes. What's negative 8 plus 3? It would be negative 5x, and then minus 24. I have exactly what I started with. Now, what's going to change from this problem to this problem is that while my product is still a negative 24, my sum this time is a positive 5. So if we look at these factors here, which one of them gave me the positive 5? The negative 3 and the positive 8 gave me the 5. So this time, I'm changing signs. X times x, I have minus 3 plus 8. So these would be my factors. See how they're different from the last problem? So let's check this using our arrows. X times x, x squared. X times 8, 8x. Negative 3 times x, negative 3 times 8. Once again, bring down your x squared, and here's my, what would be my diagonal in my box. 8 minus 3 is positive 5, minus 24. So by just changing the sign, I have it in my factors, I have a different result. And this is the correct one, matches my, my problem.